Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 1993 movie titled The Vanishing. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. In the opening scene, we are introduced to a high school chemistry teacher named Barney driving to his second house on the beach. He plans to conduct an experiment and organize the kidnapping of a girl he is enamored with. The twisted man began by spraying chloroform into a piece of fabric, then inhaled it while holding a timer in his hands before passing out. Barney was happy with his recovery when he regained consciousness. After 37 minutes of unconsciousness, he will be free to take the kidnapped girl home and do anything he wants. In his garden, he began practicing the strategy of coaxing the girl into his automobile. Not everything is easy for him at first, but he soon perfects his strategy such that if the kidnapped girl sits in the car, she has no chance of escaping his trap. Later that evening, Barney goes straight to the bus stop to pick up his daughter, Denise. She felt her father had fallen in love with another lady because he was frequently absent at home, even when her mother needed him. Barney continues to practice his kidnapping plan, even when he is with his daughter. He decides to drive Denise to the lake cottage and help him with the house remodeling. Barney observed the spiders and decided to keep them for future use. After finishing the work, Barney instructed his daughter to open the picnic basket if she was hungry. Denise shrieked in panic upon seeing the spiders in the picnic basket. It turns out that it was also part of his strategy, because Barney wanted to see if his neighbor could hear the girl screaming. After the neighbor confirms not hearing anything, he feels happy. That afternoon, Barney traveled into town to entice his victim into the trap. He asked one woman for a post office address and offered her a ride as a compliment, but she rejected it. Barney's pulse is racing, but he wants to keep his cool and apprehend his targets without being detected. After a few attempts, the pulse reduced from 180 to 95 hits per minute. Barney's wife, Helen, suspects her husband of having an affair with another lady, which explains why he rarely returns home. According to Barney, he is only renovating the cottage house, which keeps him occupied all the time. He assures her that he will return when he is done. We are then introduced to Jeff and Diane, a young couple, driving back from their vacation in Canada. Their vehicle ran out of gas in the middle of the tunnel while they were still traveling, nearly colliding with a fast-moving trailer. Jeff then chose to walk back to the petrol station, leaving Diane alone in the car as she searched for the flashlight. When Jeff returned to the truck, his wife had already vanished. Diane was sitting nearby since the tunnel was too intimidating for her. Diane cried in the car as Jeff begged forgiveness for his actions. Barney employs plaster casts as a novel approach to gaining public compassion. Furthermore, it is convenient to conceal a chloroform bottle before entering the gas station store. Diane requests that Jeff stop at the gas station to get some refreshments, and she demands that he pledge never to abandon her again. She then took the key out of the ignition and walked to the store. Diane enters the restrooms, and Barney follows and watches her carefully. A few minutes later, Jeff feels Diane has taken too long and is losing patience, so he resolves to pick her. Diane was not in the restroom when he checked. He even showed Diane's image to the cashier, who informed him that she had last seen her half an hour ago standing near the lotto machine. Jeff immediately decided to inform the authorities. However, the police officer informed Jeff that he would only file his wife's missing report after 24 hours and suggested that he return home. 3 years have gone by since Diane vanished, but Jeff is still determined to find out what happened. He still publishes and distributes flyers across the community, as well as visiting TV stations. When Jeff went to the cafe for coffee one evening while intoxicated, Rita, the waiter, recognized him from high school. He showed her Diane's picture to see if she could provide any information. However, Rita does not know the girl because the incident occurred 60 miles away from their restaurant. Jeff flipped the milk-filled glass over, and Rita suggested that he spend the night at the motel instead of driving inebriated. Rita then placed Jeff in her bed while she slept on the couch. The next day, Jeff tells Rita that he was a copywriter who lost his job, but he is working on an article and is just waiting for the publisher's clearance. Jeff obtains Rita's cell phone number, and the movie time passes. Jeff has resolved to end his grief and marry Rita, and he no longer wants to examine Diane's case. That same evening, Rita discovered Jeff's loaded gun, which he claimed he had bought for self-defense. She insisted on getting rid of it since she did not want to be surrounded by guns. Jeff agreed before scheduling an appointment with the publisher over the phone. The publisher thought the book was not right for them and suggested Jeff write about his experiences after his wife disappeared. Jeff first objected because he wanted to put the memories behind him but eventually agreed since he needed to pay his debts. Jeff returned to the search without alerting his new wife of the mission. Jeff had to join the Army Reserves just to have access to Diane's disappearance files. Jeff appeared on the television show the next morning, and Barney and his daughter were also watching. Jeff expressed a desire to see the person who took Diane, only to discover what happened and whether she is still alive. He is willing to do whatever it takes to get to her. Jeff also provides security assurance because he does not detest him. Rita becomes interested in reading Jeff's works on the computer. However, she is unable to view the documents because the folder is password secured. Rita then investigated every possible combination of her name, but the findings remain the same. Then she obtained Jeff's missing wife's name, and the word vanished from correspondence. It turned out that this word was a password, which she eventually deciphered. Rita uncovered Jeff's letter to Diane, which explains why he cannot stop looking for her. She then discovers Jeff's altered command post address. In a frenzy, Rita drives to Jeff's motel and appears in front of him, dressed in a black wig to resemble Diane, to satisfy his fixation. Rita chastises Jeff for lying to her and treating her like trash, because flyers and newspaper clippings hung throughout his room. Jeff now has to pick between his disappeared wife and her as his love interest, because Rita says she will never return to him. Jeff becomes remorseful when he realizes Rita cracked his computer password and knows everything. Jeff admits that ignorance is troubling him and is resolved to move on from Diane's case in order to live their lives normally. They went outside, hugged her, and swore to stay together. That night, all newspaper cuttings and flyers were destroyed. One afternoon, Barney was going across the street and could not see Diane's new posters on the walls, so he immediately wrote to Jeff and extended an offer to meet him with his name on it. Barney, who lives across the street, is closely watching Jeff and Rita's actions at the restaurant. Rita insisted that Jeff report to the police rather than waste their time meeting him. However, Jeff is ready to meet this person one-on-one, claiming that the police would mock him, labeling him insane and obsessive. Rita walks out on him, angry, as she discovers Jeff has not changed his fixation with Diane, and says goodbye to her. Rita dashed to the apartment to gather her possessions, unaware that Barney had followed her, sneaked into the unit, and planned to douse her with chemicals. Rita wrote a message to Jeff and recorded it on the answering machine, claiming she was leaving him and would never return again. Barney was prepared to do it, but after hearing this message, he decided to cancel his plans. Jeff ran back to the flat to meet Rita, but she had already left with her possessions. Just thereafter, Barney emerged from his disguise and revealed himself to Jeff as his wife's abductor, holding the keys Diane had pulled from the ignition on the day she vanished. Jeff jumped on Barney and slammed him down before demanding answers. Jeff's neighbor, Carmichael, observed everything from her balcony while Barney refuses to speak. The lunatic smiles and warns Jeff that if he kills him now, he will never know the truth, and there is only one way to find her. Jeff must sit in his car and accompany him to the residence. After some deliberation, Jeff consented to ride with him in the hopes of seeing Diane, his attractive wife. Later, in the pub, Rita took a sip and wished to hear herself on Jeff's answering machine. She is astonished, however, when she hears Barney's voice requesting a meeting with Jeff. Rita realized Jeff was in danger and could have been kidnapped. Infatuated Barney intends to tell Jeff everything that happened on the day he kidnapped his wife, but first he must listen carefully to his story since sometimes the devil is in the details. Barney describes his family holiday. Denise observed a young child drowning and called her father to help her. Without thinking, Barney dived into the river to help her. At that point, his daughter regarded him as a hero capable of saving the entire planet. But Barney questioned whether he was capable of doing both good and evil. He informs Jeff that Diane was an experiment to prove to himself beyond a doubt that he was capable of both evil and heroism. Shortly, the police ordered them to stop over because of the taillight, but Barney threatened Jeff that if he said anything to him, he would never find out what happened to his wife. Rita immediately summoned the police to Jeff's apartment, but the officer informed her that there was nothing unlawful on the recording and that Jeff's search would take place in 24 hours. Rita goes to Jeff's neighbor to find out what happened. Carmichael reveals that Jeff was arguing with a man called Barney, and she gave Rita Barney's registration plate. She then ran to the police station and reported her car stolen. Rita eventually found Barney's address and last name. On the other hand, Barney tells Jeff what happened on the day he kidnapped Diane. He intended to kidnap numerous girls, but his methods proved ineffective. This realization led him to assume that he was weaker than he realized. So he abandoned his nefarious schemes and discarded the plastic casts. However, Diane approached him and asked for his help in swapping the coupons at the lotto machine. That was when she admired his wrist bracelet and wanted to give it to Jeff as a present. He told Diane that he was the only French-designed bracelet dealer in the area and encouraged her to come to his car to purchase one at a discount. Barney encouraged Diane to help him by sitting in his car. Diane was first wary, but when she saw Barney's family photo, she relaxed and straightened out. Barney drenched Diane with chloroform until she passed out, then drove her away. Barney stops at the same petrol station where he kidnapped Diane 3 years earlier. Rita hurries to get Jeff's gun and drives to Barney's house, where she meets his daughter. Denise suspects that this is her father's latest mistress. Rita discovers that Denise's father is at the lake house, but she promises to supply Rita with directions only if she gives her a ride to meet her boyfriend, which Rita accepts. To learn what happened to Diane, Jeff must consume the drug coffee and go through what Diane did. Barney does not even need a handgun. He exploits Jeff's interest as a weapon because he considers him a laboratory rat. He clearly sipped the coffee before passing out. Jeff awakens in the casket, still alive beneath the surface, and begins to call for rescue. Rita dropped Denise down in the park with her boyfriend before heading to the lake house. Rita ultimately gets to the house, but she discovers that the gun is missing from its case before Barney assaults her from behind. Rita attacks him with the case before fleeing into the bushes to hide. When Barney finds and attacks her again, she defends herself with the wood and flees into the house, shouting out Jeff's name, but he is not there. Rita uses the house phone to contact the police for assistance. But she began to lose consciousness and stagger, eventually falling to the ground. Barney returned to the house seeking her. Rita fought him off before sprinting to her car and starting the engine. Sadly, the vehicle became trapped in the mud and was unable to leave. Barney came to the car and doused her with chloroform. Fortunately, Rita used a cigarette lighter to burn his hand because the chemicals were flammable. Despite her injuries, Barney jumped on Rita and led her back to the house. He made her sit in the chair and told her that Jeff had a decision to make. Barney plans to subject Rita to the same drug coffee experience. Rita noticed a shoe with mud on it and assumed that this depraved man had buried Jeff, which meant Diane suffered the same fate. Rita informs Barney that she has his daughter as a captive and plans to swap her for Jeff's life. Barney was stunned until Rita revealed every detail about his daughter and their address number. Barney promptly called Helen, only to inform him that their Denise was missing and she had no idea where to find her. If Barney wants to find out where Denise is, he must also consume the drug coffee. Finally, he drank from his cup, and Rita walked out to get Jeff as Barney became unconscious. Rita dug up a grave nearby to save her beloved, who was unconscious when she opened the casket. However, Barney appeared from behind, knocking her to the ground. Jeff awakens from his unconscious state and helps beat Barney off Rita before killing him for good. Jeff hugs his wife and discovers another grave in the grasslands, indicating that the cruel man also buried Diane alive 3 years ago. Moments later, Jeff met with the publisher, who agreed to publish Jeff's novel due to its compelling plot. Finally, Jeff and Rita refused to drink coffee as a result of their traumatic experiences. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.